They told me not to worry, that my wedding day would still be perfect even if they were a little late. I stood there in my dress, watching the chairs slowly fill up with strangers. But the front row, my parents' seats, stayed empty. Then I got the message. They weren't a little late. They weren't coming at all. Because my cousin's backyard barbecue was apparently more important than watching their own daughter get married. I remember staring at my phone, my hands shaking, waiting for it to feel like a mistake. It wasn't. And that's when something inside me stopped breaking and started planning. My name is Amelia, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the first ones to show you exactly how little you matter. But here's the thing about being pushed too far. You don't just fall, you rise, and you make sure every single person who watched you fall feels the ground shake beneath them. To understand what happened on my wedding day, you need to understand my family. And trust me, it's not pretty. I grew up as the middle child in a family that never really knew what to do with me. My older brother, Marcus, he was the golden boy. Star athlete, straight A's, the one my dad took to every game, every fishing trip, every man-to-man conversation I was never invited to hear. My younger sister, Lily, she was the baby, the one my mom dressed up like a little doll, the one who could do no wrong, the one whose tears could stop any argument and melt any punishment. And then there was me, Amelia, the one in the middle. Too old to be cute, too young to be accomplished. Just there. I remember being 8 years old, bringing home a drawing I'd made in art class. It took me 3 hours. I colored every single detail. The sun had glitter on it because I wanted it to look like magic. I ran inside the house, screaming, "Mom, Dad, look what I made." My mom was on the phone with my Aunt Evelyn. She held up one finger, 1 minute, and kept talking. My dad was watching TV. He didn't even look up. I stood there for 10 minutes holding that drawing. Then I put it on the fridge myself. That's the thing about being the invisible child. You learn to celebrate yourself, because no one else is going to. But here's the part that really messed me up. My cousin Chloe, she was never invisible. Chloe is my mom's sister's daughter, and to my mother, Chloe might as well have been the daughter she always wished she had. Chloe was pretty in the way that make people stop and stare. She was outgoing, loud, the life of every party. She got pregnant at 19, and somehow my mom called it brave and beautiful. When I got a scholarship to college at 17, my mom said, "That's nice, honey." Not, "That's amazing." Not, "I'm so proud of you." "That's nice." Like I told her I'd found a penny on the sidewalk. The favoritism wasn't even subtle. Birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays, my mom always found a reason to talk about Chloe. What Chloe was wearing, what Chloe was cooking, what Chloe's baby did that was so adorable. I remember my 18th birthday. My mom asked what I wanted to do. I said I wanted a small dinner, just the immediate family. Parents, Marcus, Lily, me. She said, okay. Then Chloe showed up. Then Chloe's boyfriend showed up. Then Chloe's baby showed up. Then my mom spent the entire dinner passing the baby around, taking pictures of Chloe, and completely forgetting that the birthday girl was sitting right there. I ate my cake in silence. And when everyone left, my mom said, "That was so nice that Chloe came. She's just the sweetest." She didn't say happy birthday. Not once. That was my life. And the worst part? I still loved them. I still wanted them to see me, to be proud of me, to finally, for once in my entire life, put me first. That's why my wedding day hurt so much, because for one day, I actually thought I'd be the priority. Let me tell you about my fiancé, now my husband, David. David is the kind of man who makes you believe in love, even when your own family has shown you the opposite. We met at a coffee shop. I was studying for my graduate school exams. He was a nursing student. He spilled his coffee all over my notes. Most people would have apologized and walked away. David sat down, helped me rewrite everything from memory, bought me a new coffee, and asked if he could take me out to dinner sometime. That was 6 years ago. David has never made me feel invisible. Not once. He remembers my birthday. He celebrates my achievements. He looks at me like I'm the only person in the room. When he proposed, I cried for 20 minutes. Not just because I was happy, but because for the first time in my life, someone was choosing me. Someone was saying, "You matter. You are enough. I want to build a life with you." My parents' reaction to our engagement? My mom said, "Oh, that's nice. Chloe just got promoted at work, did I tell you?" My dad said, "You sure he's the one?" Not congratulations, not we're so happy for you, just doubt and disinterest. But I told myself it was fine. I told myself they would come around. I told myself that on the actual wedding day, they would show up for me. I was wrong. The planning process should have been my first clue. I asked my mom to come dress shopping with me, just me and her, a mother-daughter thing. She said, "Oh, I can't that day. Chloe's having a gender reveal party for her second baby." I said, "Can we go a different day?" She said, "Well, I'm busy the whole month. Maybe Lily can go with you." My little sister Lily, who was 16 and couldn't care less about wedding dresses, went with me. She sat on her phone the whole time. I bought my dress alone. I asked my dad if he would walk me down the aisle. He said, "Yeah, sure. Just let me know what time." No emotion. No, it would be my honor. No tears. Just, "Yeah, sure." Like I'd asked him to take out the trash. I planned the entire wedding by myself. Davis helped as much as he could, but he was working double shifts at the hospital. So I chose the venue alone, I picked the flowers alone, I tasted the cake alone, I wrote the seating chart alone. And every time I called my mom for advice, she was always too busy. Too busy with Chloe's baby shower, too busy with Chloe's housewarming party, too busy with Chloe's drama. My mom once drove 2 hours to help Chloe pick out paint colors for her living room. She wouldn't drive 20 minutes to see my venue. But I still believed they would show up on the day. I still believed that when it really mattered, they would be there. That's the thing about hope. It doesn't protect you. It just makes the fall hurt more. The week before my wedding, everything fell apart. And I mean everything. It started with a phone call from my mom. She said, "Amelia, honey, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be understanding." Whenever someone says, "be understanding," you know you're about to get hurt. She said, "Chloe's husband just got deployed. She's all alone with the 2 kids. She's really struggling emotionally. So your father and I were thinking, maybe we could just come to the ceremony and then leave right after. We don't want to miss Chloe's barbecue." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Let me explain this barbecue. Chloe was hosting a welcome home party for her husband's brother, who was coming back from overseas. It was a backyard barbecue, hot dogs, hamburgers, the whole thing. Important? Sure, for Chloe. But my wedding was happening once. I said, "Mom, you're talking about leaving my wedding reception early? My wedding?" She sighed like I was being difficult. "We wouldn't be leaving that early, just after dinner. Chloe really needs us right now." I asked, "What about what I need? It's my wedding day." There was silence on the phone. Then my mom said something I will never forget. "Amelia, you've always been so independent. You don't really need us the way Chloe does. Chloe is fragile. You're strong." Strong. That's what they called me when they wanted to excuse their neglect. "You're strong. You don't need us. You'll be fine. Chloe is fragile. Chloe needs us. Chloe comes first." I was so tired of being strong. I was tired of being the one who could be abandoned because I wouldn't fall apart. I hung up the phone and cried for an hour. David held me and said, "We don't need them. We have each other." And he was right, but it still hurt. 3 days before the wedding, I got another call, this time from my dad. He said, "Your mom's really stressed about this whole situation. Chloe called her crying last night. So we're thinking, and don't get upset, we're thinking maybe we just skip the reception entirely. Come to the ceremony, take some pictures, and then head to Chloe's." I said, "You're going to miss the father-daughter dance?" He said, "We can do a dance at home another time." Another time. Like my wedding was just another Tuesday. I said, "Dad, you're walking me down the aisle. That's the one thing I asked you for." He said, "I'm still walking you down the aisle, just not staying for the party." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that if he left my wedding early to go eat burgers in Chloe's backyard, I would never forgive him. But I didn't, because I was still the good daughter, the understanding one, the one who didn't make waves. So I said, fine, do what you want. And I hung up. That night, David asked me if I wanted to cancel the whole thing and elope. I said no, because somewhere deep inside me, I still believed that when the day actually came, they would change their minds. They would see me in my dress, they would feel the moment, and they would stay. I was a fool. Wedding day. June 15th. The most important day of my life. I woke up at 5 a.m. Couldn't sleep. Nervous excitement. The kind where your stomach feels like it's full of butterflies and static electricity. I had hired a makeup artist and a hairstylist because I knew my mom wouldn't help me get ready. I had asked my best friend Sarah to be my maid of honor, and she showed up at 7 a.m. with champagne and donuts and the biggest smile I'd ever seen. For a few hours, everything felt perfect. Sarah helped me into my dress. It was ivory lace with a long train and a sweetheart neckline. I had dreamed about this dress for months. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't feel invisible. I felt beautiful. I felt like a bride. I texted my mom a photo.
She texted back, "Looks nice. Chloe just sent me the cutest picture of the kids in their matching outfits for the barbecue." Not, "You look stunning." Not, "I can't wait to see you." Just, "Chloe." I put my phone down and tried to breathe. The ceremony was supposed to start at 2 p.m. I called my dad. No answer. I texted both of them. "Hey, everything okay? Ceremony starts in 30 minutes. No response. At 1:45, the venue coordinator came to find me. She said, "Amelia, we're ready whenever you are, but your parents aren't here yet. Do you want to wait a few minutes?" I said yes, because what else could I say? At 2 p.m., I was standing behind the doors, holding my bouquet, waiting for the music to start. Sarah was peeking through the curtain. She said, "They're not here yet." I said, "Wait 5 more minutes." At 2:05, the doors opened. I walked down the aisle. The chairs were mostly full. Friends, co-workers, David's giant family, all of whom had flown in from out of state to be there. But the front row, my parents' seats, were empty. David was waiting for me at the altar. His eyes were wet. He was smiling. And I walked toward him with an empty front row watching me. The ceremony was beautiful, short, sweet. We wrote our own vows. David cried. I cried. Everyone clapped. But I couldn't stop looking at those 2 empty chairs. After the ceremony, during the cocktail hour, I finally got a message. It was from my mom. It said, "So sorry, sweetheart, we're not going to make it. Chloe had a breakdown and we had to stay with her. Have a beautiful day. Love you." A breakdown. Chloe had a breakdown on my wedding day. I called my mom. She answered. I said, "What do you mean you're not coming?" She said, "I'm so sorry, Amelia. Chloe was hysterical. She said she couldn't handle the barbecue by herself. We had to stay." I said, "It's a barbecue, not open heart surgery." My mom got quiet. Then she said, "You don't understand because you don't have kids. Chloe needs support right now." I said, "I need support right now. It's my wedding day." She said, "You're fine. You have David. You have Sarah. You're strong." Strong again. I said, "If you're not here in 1 hour, don't bother coming at all." And I hung up. I waited 1 hour. They didn't come. I called my dad. He said, "Amelia, don't be dramatic. We'll come to the reception next weekend. We'll bring a gift." I said, "There is no reception next weekend. There's today. And you're not here." He said, "Chloe needed us." I said, "So did I." And I hung up. That was the moment. Standing in the back of my own wedding reception, watching David's family dance and laugh, watching my father-daughter dance never happen, watching my mother's empty seat. That was the moment I stopped breaking and started planning. I didn't cry at the wedding. I held it together for the guests. I smiled for the photos. I cut the cake. I did the garter toss. I danced with David. Everyone kept saying, "You look so happy," and I let them believe it. But inside, I was dying. That night in the hotel room,
David held me when I finally fell apart. And I mean fell apart. The kind of crying where you can't breathe, where your whole body shakes, where you make sounds you didn't know you could make. The kind of crying that comes from years of being told you don't matter, all crashing down at once. David just held me. He didn't say, it's okay, because it wasn't okay. He just said, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You are my family now. I cried for 3 hours, and when I woke up the next morning, something was different. The grief was still there, but underneath it, there was something else. Anger. Cold, sharp, focused anger. I had spent my whole life being the understanding one, the one who didn't make waves, the one who accepted being second place because someone else needed it more. Not anymore. My parents had made their choice. They chose Chloe's barbecue over my wedding. They chose Chloe's breakdown over my father-daughter dance. They chose Chloe's fragility over my happiness. And I was done being strong for people who would never be strong for me. I sat up in bed, wiped my face, and said to David, I'm going to need your help with something. He said, anything. I said, I'm going to show them what happens when you push too far. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. That's when I started planning. Here's the thing about revenge. It's not about being cruel. It's about being seen. For 26 years, my parents had looked past me, through me, around me, but never at me. They saw Chloe. They saw Marcus. They saw Lily. But they never saw Amelia. So my plan was simple. I was going to make them see me. Not by screaming, not by crying, not by begging for their attention like I had done my whole life, but by building something so undeniable, so successful, so extraordinary that they would have no choice but to look. And then, when they finally looked, I was going to show them exactly what they missed. The first thing I did was stop talking to them. No calls, no texts, no visits. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a scene. I just disappeared from their lives. My mom texted me a week after the wedding. Are you okay? Haven't heard from you. I didn't respond. She called a few days later. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail said, Amelia, your father and I are getting worried. Chloe said you're probably just busy with the honeymoon. Call us when you get a chance. Chloe said. Even in a voicemail to me, my mom was quoting Chloe. I deleted the voicemail and got back to work because I had a plan, and it was bigger than anyone expected. I had always been good with money. Numbers made sense to me in a way that people never did. While my parents were busy adoring Chloe, I was studying finance, learning about investing, building a skill set that no one in my family even knew I had. David and I had saved $40,000 for a house down payment. We decided to use it differently.
I had been watching the stock market for years. I had a theory about a small tech company that was about to explode. I had done the research. I had run the numbers. Everyone said I was crazy. David said, I trust you. So we invested every dollar we had, $40,000 into a company that no one was talking about. 6 months later, that company was bought by a major corporation. Our $40,000 became $200,000. $200,000. I took that money and kept going. Real estate was next. I found a small duplex in an up-and-coming neighborhood. Everyone said it was too risky. The neighborhood was rough. The property needed work. I didn't care. I bought it, renovated it, rented it out. Within a year, it was generating $10,000 a month in passive income. I bought another property, then another. Within 2 years, I had 7 rental properties, over $1 million in assets, and no one in my family knew. I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't rub it in anyone's face. I just worked. Every single day, I woke up thinking about those empty chairs at my wedding, and every single day, I used that pain as fuel. David was my partner in everything. He handled the legal side, he handled the property management, he handled the late-night calls from tenants. Together, we built an empire. And all the while, my family had no idea. They thought I was still the invisible middle child, the one who didn't need anything, the one who was strong and independent and fine. They had no idea that I was about to become the most powerful person in the family, and when I finally revealed myself, it would change everything.
But money wasn't enough. I wanted proof. I wanted evidence that my parents had chosen Chloe over me my entire life, not just on my wedding day, but every single day before that. Because I knew that when I finally confronted them, they would deny it. They would say, "We love all our children equally." They would say, "You're being dramatic." They would say, "We never meant to hurt you." And I wanted to have the receipts. So I started looking. I went through old photo albums at my grandmother's house. My grandma, my dad's mom, had always been my biggest supporter. She was the one who came to my wedding. She was the one who cried when she saw me in my dress. She was the one who said, "Your parents are fools. You are a treasure." I asked her, "Grandma, do you have any old family photos?" She brought out boxes and boxes, and I found the truth. School photos. I had 1. Chloe had 10. Birthday party photos. I had 2. Chloe had 15. Holiday photos. I was always in the background. Chloe was always front and center. Vacation photos. I wasn't in any of them because my parents only took Chloe on vacations. I stayed with Grandma. I photocopied everything. Then I found old letters. My mom used to write to my grandmother every week, and in those letters, she talked about the family. Marcus made the baseball team. Lily said her first word. Chloe is just the light of our lives. She's so talented and beautiful. I wish she was my daughter. I wish she was my daughter. My own mother wrote that about my cousin. I was never mentioned, not once, not in any of the letters. I took photos of every single one. Then I went to my phone records. For the past 10 years, I had called my parents 847 times. They had called me 43 times. 43. Over 10 years. And Chloe? I found out from my grandmother that my mom called Chloe every single day. Every single day. I had proof. I had years of evidence that I was the forgotten child. But the most damning piece of evidence came from my wedding day. I didn't know this until months later, but one of David's cousins had filmed the entire ceremony. He was a videographer and had offered to do it for free as a wedding gift. In the video, you could see the empty chairs. You could see me looking at them as I walked down the aisle. You could see David's family on one side, full, laughing, crying, and my side, mostly empty, just a few friends and my grandmother. I watched that video once, and then I saved it, because I knew that one day I would show it to my parents, and I would ask them one question: was it worth it? But I wasn't ready yet. I needed to build more. I needed to become undeniable. So I kept working. Year 3. That's when everything changed. I had built a real estate portfolio worth $3 million. I had started a financial consulting business that was serving over 200 clients. I had been featured in a local business magazine, something I didn't even tell my family about. But then something happened that forced my hand. Chloe got engaged, and my parents lost their minds. They threw her an engagement party with 100 guests. They paid for her dress. They offered to pay for the entire wedding, which was going to be at a fancy vineyard with a live band and a 5-course meal. I heard about it all from my grandmother. She said, "Amelia, your mother is spending $50,000 on Chloe's wedding. $50,000. She never spent a dime on yours." I said, "I know, Grandma." She said, "Aren't you angry?" I said, "I'm not angry anymore. I'm something else." She said, "What?" I said, "Ready." Chloe's wedding was set for June 15th, exactly 3 years after mine, the same date. I don't know if my mom even realized it, but when I found out, something clicked. They had skipped my wedding for Chloe's barbecue. Now they were throwing her a $50,000 wedding on the same date as mine. It was too perfect. I decided that on June 15th, the day of Chloe's wedding, I would finally reveal everything, but not in anger, in truth. I wrote a letter, not to my parents directly, to the whole family. I titled it, The Forgotten Daughter. In it, I wrote about every single moment of neglect, every birthday ignored, every achievement dismissed, every time I was told I was strong so they could feel better about abandoning me. I attached the photos, the letters, the phone records. I attached the video of my wedding, the empty chairs, the lonely walk down the aisle, the father-daughter dance that never happened. I attached screenshots of my mom's texts on my wedding day. "So sorry, sweetheart, we're not going to make it." And then I attached something else. A recent photo of me standing in front of the 7 properties I owned. A screenshot of my bank account, 7 figures. A copy of the business magazine cover with my face on it. Underneath, I wrote, "To my parents, you said I was strong. You said I didn't need you. You said I would be fine. You were right. I am strong. I didn't need you. And I am more than fine. I am successful. I am wealthy. I am loved by a man who chose me first, every single day. While you were busy choosing Chloe, I was busy building a life that doesn't include you. I'm not writing this to hurt you. I'm writing this to free myself. You don't get to come to my wedding and leave early for a barbecue. You don't get to call me dramatic when I ask for basic respect. You don't get to spend $50,000 on Chloe's wedding on the same date as mine and expect me to stay quiet. I am done being invisible. I am done being the daughter you remember when it's convenient. I am done. If you want to be in my life, you know where to find me. But I won't hold my breath, because I've learned something important. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, and you didn't show up. I sent the letter to every single family member. My parents, my brother Marcus, my sister Lily, my Aunt Evelyn, my grandmother, my cousins, everyone.
The response was nuclear. Within 2 hours, my phone was blowing up. My grandmother called first. She was crying. She said, "I always knew they treated you differently, but I never knew how bad it was. I'm so sorry, Amelia. I'm so sorry." My brother Marcus texted, "I had no idea. I'm sorry I was so blind." My sister Lily called, sobbing. She said, "You were always so alone, and I never noticed because I was too busy being the baby. I'm so sorry." But my parents, they didn't call. My Aunt Evelyn called, screaming, "How dare you? How dare you send that letter on Chloe's wedding day? You've ruined everything. You've always been jealous of Chloe. You've always been a problem." I listened to her scream for 5 minutes. Then I said, "Aunt Evelyn, I'm not jealous of Chloe. I feel sorry for her. She's been my parents' project for 30 years. That's not a blessing. That's a burden." Aunt Evelyn hung up. Then Chloe called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. She was crying, but not the dramatic, performative crying I was used to. Real crying. She said, "Amelia, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. My mom told me you were fine. She told me you didn't want a big wedding. She told me you preferred to be alone." I said, "I never preferred to be alone. I was just used to it." Chloe said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And for the first time in my life, I believed her. But that wasn't the final justice. The final justice came from my parents. 3 days after I sent the letter, they showed up at my door. My mom looked older, smaller, like the weight of what she'd done had finally settled on her shoulders. My dad wouldn't look me in the eye. My mom said, "Can we come in?" I said, "Why?"
She said, "Because you're our daughter." I said, "That didn't matter on my wedding day." She started crying, real tears. Not the kind she cried for Chloe. Those were always loud and dramatic. These were quiet, broken. She said, "I failed you. I failed you your whole life, and I don't know how to fix it." I said, "You can't fix it. You can only do better going forward." My dad finally looked at me. He said, "I should have walked you down the aisle. I should have stayed. I should have chosen you." I said, "Yes, you should have." We stood there in silence. Then my mom said, "We read the letter. We saw the photos. We watched the video. We didn't know. We didn't realize how much we hurt you." I said, "That's the problem. You didn't want to realize. It was easier to pretend I was fine." She didn't argue. She couldn't, because everything I said was true. I let them come inside. We sat in my living room, a living room that I owned, in a house that I owned, in a life that I had built without them. My mom looked around and said, "You've done so well." I said, "I didn't have a choice.
no one was going to do it for me. She started crying again. And then she said the words I had waited my whole life to hear. I'm proud of you. Not, that's nice. Not, Chloe did something too. I'm proud of you. It should have felt better than it did. But honestly, it just felt late. I told them that I would give them a chance. One chance. To be in my life. To be grandparents if David and I had children. To show up. But I also told them that I would never again beg for their attention. I would never again accept being second place. I would never again be the daughter who waited by the phone. They agreed. And for the first time in my life, I believed that maybe, just maybe, they meant it.
It's been 2 years since I sent that letter. 2 years since I stopped being invisible. Here's what happened after. My parents started coming to therapy with me every other week. My mom cried through most of the first 10 sessions. My dad sat in silence for the first 5, but they kept showing up. And slowly, painfully, they started to understand. My mom finally admitted that she had always wanted a daughter like Chloe, perfect, needy, dependent. And when I turned out to be independent and capable, she didn't know what to do with me, so she just stopped trying. My dad admitted that he was never good at emotions. He thought that as long as he provided for me financially, he was being a good father. He didn't realize that I needed more than money. They apologized. Real apologies. Not, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm sorry I hurt you. I was wrong. Chloe and I have a relationship now, a real one, without the competition that our mothers created. She's actually a good person. She was just as trapped in the dynamic as I was. We get coffee once a month. We talk about our lives, not as rivals, as cousins. My real estate portfolio is worth $5 million now. My consulting business has over 500 clients. David and I just bought our dream home, a farmhouse with land and a garden and room for the children we're planning to have. And my parents? They showed up to my 31st birthday party. They were early. They brought a gift that they picked out themselves, not something my mom bought last minute and wrapped in newspaper. They stayed the whole time. And when I blew out the candles, my mom was crying. Not because she was sad, because she was finally seeing me. The daughter she almost lost. The daughter who didn't need her, but wanted her anyway. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. You cannot make someone love you the way you deserve. You cannot beg, perform, shrink, or change yourself into someone they finally see. The people who are supposed to love you either will or they won't, and that is not your fault. I spent 26 years trying to be worthy of my parents' attention. 26 years of being strong so they didn't have to feel guilty. 26 years of watching them pour everything into someone else and pretending it didn't destroy me. And nothing changed until I stopped trying. The moment I walked away from their approval, I found something better. Myself. My worth was never in their hands. It was always in mine. And the same is true for you. You are not invisible. You are not too much or not enough. You are not defined by the people who failed to see you. You are defined by what you build when you finally stop waiting for them to look. I built an empire on the ashes of being forgotten, and you can too. Not because you need revenge, but because you deserve to be seen, by yourself first, and then by the world. That's the real victory, not making them pay,
but proving to yourself that you never needed them to begin with. So here's my question for you. Who is making you feel invisible right now? And what are you going to do about it? Because trust me, the best revenge isn't anger. It's becoming undeniable. And then watching them realize they were the ones who lost you, not the other way around.